Hey YouTube fam, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you guys about how to prevent nosebleeds. So let's get right into it. If you watched my video surprise ER visit, you will know that last month I had an emergency surprise visit to Boston Children's Hospital with my son due to a massive nosebleed that he had earlier in the day. He has been known to have severe nosebleeds in the past, and we ended up having to have a blood transfusion because he had lost so much blood, and his levels were low, well, borderline. So we ended up having to have a blood transfusion, and that's actually the third time I believe that he's had to do that. And so oftentimes people are like, well, you can't keep having to go to the emergency room every time that happens. So I figured, why not talk about some of the ways that we try to prevent nosebleeds? So one of the things that I had said before is my son has had a nasal cautery in both of his nostrils. So he had one done a few years ago and then another one last year. And basically it's a surgical procedure where they go in and they burn the blood vessels that are in your nose that are basically causing the nosebleeds. Unfortunately for him, even though he's had nasal cauteries, he has continued to have nosebleeds. So I just wanted to share some of the few things that we use to help prevent those nosebleeds. So the first thing that we do is we use nasal saline. We like this brand. I'll zoom it in for you. The Vicks Children's Sinex nasal saline mist. And what we'll do, we'll spray it in his nose in the morning and we'll spray it at night before he goes to bed. And that basically just keeps his nostrils from being dry and provides moisture. So this is a go-to for us. We travel with it when we're going somewhere that's long distance, but it's handy, and whenever it runs out, we just buy a new one. You can find it at your local drugstore, CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, but this is clutch for us, having a nasal saline that we're able to spray in his nose. And actually, Davian can spray this by himself. He will grab it and will actually put it in and is able to press down on the depressor to be able to spray his nose. So this one actually is almost done. So there we go. Another thing that we typically do is at night specifically, we will coat his nostrils with Vaseline. We have had a prescription from Upiricin in the past, but if you don't have a prescription to get the ointment for his nose, Vaseline works just fine. So what we'll do is, whether the room is dry, whether the room is wherever, like, it doesn't matter. He doesn't have like specific triggers. So whether the room is dry, whether the room is moist, if his nostrils appear dry, what we'll do is we'll get Vaseline, and I'll just grab a Q-tip and I will use the Q-tip to line his nostrils so that way it's not dry anymore. Another thing that I've used for my older boys is Flonase. If they have allergies and their nose is irritated, or the vessels in their nose are irritated, I will have them spray Flonase. This is a prescription, but you can get Flonase over the counter to spray in their nose to help with the allergic rhinitis. And then last but not least, when he does have a nosebleed, so now we're talking about, don't mind me as I'm looking for my last prop. Okay, so last but not least, when he does actually have a nosebleed and we have been holding down the bridge of his nose, that's what you want to do. You want to hold down the bridge of the nose for 10 to 15 minutes. And you can imagine trying to do this with a toddler. It's very, very painful, and it's like, you require a lot of strength, because my kids don't just sit there and let you hold their nose, as I'm sure other parents can relate to. So what we'll do is we actually use Afrin. So once again, you can get it at your, let's see. Okay, yeah, that's a good. So they have a children's kind, and they have ones for adults. And what we'll do is we'll spray Afrin into the nostril that is bleeding, in hopes that it'll help stop the bleed and provide the moisture that they need in the nose. So, usually if your nosebleed lasts more than 10 to 15 minutes, I would say that, of course, call the pediatrician and just let them know that this is the situation. Hopefully you will not be in that situation, but that's my recommendation, 10 to 15 minutes if you've been holding it for pressure. And oftentimes we like to hold and then let go to see, like, did it stop bleeding? But honestly, the recommendation is that you hold it down nonstop for 10 to 15 minutes, which is really hard to do. But that's where you'll see the best success, holding it down for 10 to 15 minutes, and then hopefully it stops. If it hasn't, then we spray the Afrin and then hold again, and then we'll call and let the pediatrician know, hey, this is what happened. Or in our case, because my child is seen by hematology, we'll let them know that, hey, this is this situation. And if your child does have hematological issues, immune deficiency or anemia, usually they might ask that they do a CBC just to make sure that the hemoglobin and the hematocrit are not too low. So I hope you guys found this helpful. Like I said, my tips for preventing nosebleeds include the nasal saline, lining the coat of the nose with some Vaseline, Flonase if you have allergic rhinitis, and Afrin if the baby's nose has already started bleeding and you have been holding down for 10 to 15 minutes. That's usually my next step. Feel free to leave any comments or questions that you have, and I'll see you in the next video.